What's up, family? It's an honor and a pleasure today to have a brother, a light worker, a breath worker, a biohacker, a family man, and a man who has put in a lot of work in this lifetime and a lot of other ones. And that's my intuitive knowing. And he's traveling the world, and his vision is to unify, depolarize, and he's killing it. And so it's an honor and a pleasure to have my brother NoaAon. But before we get into this episode today, would love for my brother to lead us and guide us kind of into a state of intentionality and receptivity for whatever wants to come through.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so happy and grateful to be here, especially with, I feel like we're so aligned in so many ways. And I know whoever's listening, I think let's all, if it allows, close our eyes. And of course, if you're driving, just stay on the safe zone. keep your eyes open. And let us just all place all of your attention into the center of your brain. And imagine slowly going on an elevator down to your throat, using this vantage point from your throat, looking outwards. Now going even lower, going down from the back of your heart. And just imagine your physical heart beating right in front of you. Start breathing into this place. Start aligning into this timelessness experience, no matter when you listen to, stepping into this group, collective construct, as from the place of commonalities is where we would like to meet for this day. Now, when you see a little crescent in your physical heart, I want you to imagine just snap and move towards the crescent and just step into this sacred space of your heart. You may know it, feel it, see it. In whichever form, step into this place and start breathing in and out of this sacred space of your heart. When you feel this amplification, start inhaling into your heart, generating love from this place, and exhaling out your hands, imagining all of us in a circle, sitting together in this digital world, in this infinite web of love and light. And from this place, just ask to be able to hear, feel, see the right information, which is of your highest good, in a triple benefit, where it benefits us, you, and the whole world with inspiration and lightness. Now, in this place, just simply hold that intention there. And when it feels right, the physical attention, just come back through the same place, out your heart, into your throat, up into the center of your brain. And when it feels right, I want to encourage you, focus on your breath as you're listening to this, about 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And while you're listening to this, can you also relax your body? Observe your body's awareness in a relaxed state. And the last one is, can you pay attention to the stillness and silence underneath us talking, underneath the sound? I call this the instant presence that can allow us to bring more awareness into every day of our life. Now end it with a smile because you can, and I am so happy to welcome you into this day.
Ah, fucking ho. Yeah, beautiful. Just going to speak some words to piggyback off that beautiful breath and receptivity. By the love of original eternal source consciousness field, we have come, we have come. So we set a barrier now of the frequency of unconditional love on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual plane around this podcast, around this mission. And we tune into that place that Brother Noah talked about, right there in the heart, that place of unity, unified polarity. And we envision and feel and see one human family. By the truth of original eternal source consciousness field we stand. For there to be growth, there must be truth. So we pray that you would bless us as we open our throat chakras and to speak the truth. For the truth will set us free, and we are free indeed. And all the soul wants is to be free. Freedom. By the power of original eternal source consciousness field we fly. Spread your wings, angel. It's time to fly. Darkness we survive. Now it's time to thrive together, one tribe. So we step into our power unapologetically, unconditioned, unprogrammed, unique, oscillatory, vibratory reflection of Almighty Living Creator Source. Sons and daughters of the Most High Living God. By the way of eternal source, go I. Shout out to all those on the way, the truth, and the life, on the path of truth, the truth seekers. Shout out to all those people on that path. By the grace of original eternal source consciousness field, I now sanctify and renew this gathering, this mission, this podcast, this episode as under the divine protectorate of the Messiahana councils of Aquarion, original eternal life, founders races, for the highest good, joy, and abundance for each and every person who might listen to this podcast in this lifetime and the one to come. We give gratitude in advance. Taisha Intadoe, Taisha Intadoe, Taisha Intadoe, spoken as it is stated, and so it is done. Master Christ, surround us now. That was nice. Thank you, Brother Noah, for leading and guiding us. I love that exercise. It literally opened my heart, it quieted my mind, and it unified my spirit with humanity. And you did that all in like 2 minutes. So I would love to jump into the hero's journey of NoaAon. How, just the key components of, in this lifetime, your hero's journey, and perhaps even in the other ones. Because the first thing I asked Brother Noah was like, where are you from? And he said, oh, I'm an alien. I said, me too. So I would love to just kind of jump into like, I'm a firm believer every step we take in the past is somehow leading and guiding us into what's to come. And so to really understand the hero's journey of NoaAon in this lifetime, would love to listen to whatever you feel is, important to understand.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And it's funny, I felt so much tingling and pulsation. I mean, whatever energy you're plugged into, it's really beautiful. And I'm so grateful on behalf of everyone that's tuning in and listening to you, because this portal of education creates inspiration that gives us motivation and that provides results. And that's really, if I talk about my journey, it's been this embodiment of who and what we are at the core. And it sounds all interesting now after all of the pain, suffering, depression, anxieties that I had to gone through, which we all go through in some shape or another. But it has allowed to clean up that mess that whatever we've picked up on or created ourselves all throughout our childhood up to this moment. Now, from a young age, I've been extremely question oriented. I think if there is a gift on this journey that I've had, it's I question everything and everyone. And there is this discernment that I have learned in the early phases, which was, what would love do now? It's a simple term and question that I ask. And does it work or does it not work? Because things that work, we use them, we expand them. Things that don't work, we shall pass on them, because obviously it's a loop that is there for us to not continue repeating. Now, I grew up in Czech Republic with shaman. So from about age of 6 or 7, my mother was the opening for the doors of spirituality. And even though I didn't appreciate it at that time, it was something that created that seed and foundation into yoga, hatha yoga, very traditional and regimented, especially in my early phases. And I would also say patriarchal, because a lot of the work that I'm learning today is very much in balance of the feminine and very much acknowledging the power of the feminine, which, anywhere I have seen the step-by-step process and level 1, 2, 3, it's an outdated information, because we all are this and we all have this power to embody today, not tomorrow, not after 15 different lectures. Now, in this phase, I wanted to become a professional athlete. And so when I was 17 years old, it kind of created this chapter where I did become professional cyclist, but I also had to become an entrepreneur. And so my dad gave me a choice. You either go to school, your life is paid for, or you will do your little cycling thing and your life is not going to be paid for. And so I start trading between Alibaba and eBay in a totally different spectrum to sell carbon bike frames to people that didn't have the means to pay for $5,000-$10,000 bikes. And essentially, I used my cycling career that brought me to travel the world in early stages to start selling these carbon frames into all of the different bike stores and beyond. Now, it led me into a major pivotal moment. I got chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr. I was sick every 2 weeks. I had a suicidal thoughts. And essentially, I completely crashed out of a Czech national race because instead of recovering after all of this physical pressure, I was on a calls with factories from China or Taiwan and beyond. Now, in this moment, this is when I discovered biohacking. This is when I discovered spirit hacking, and really, Wim Hof was a huge healing, component of this. And I ended up quitting cycling because my body would not take it, which was awesome because I was having such a lack of purpose in the term of winning in general, and it led me into a business career in America. Long story short, I ended up finding Orange Theory Fitness. And so for about 6 years of my life, I was franchising in 7 different regions with almost 100 locations under my belt. And so again, totally on a spectrum of what the societal norm is, right? To find success, have a wife, have kids. And I've done it all, but I was unhappy again. I felt burned out, and I had this deep whispers in my head, like, is this it? Like, there's more to life. There must be more to life. And so what I did as a busy entrepreneur, I committed myself that every 3 months, I'm going to do something out of my comfort zone. And what that was, it was, I did things like samurai camp in Japan. I went through a Zen master training. I spent a month with the psychics in Brazil. I became ambassador of peace with the Breatharians, with Jas Muhin. And it wasn't until I went into darkroom for the first time about 8 years ago that my life has completely shifted. So I walk in there burned out. I wanted to leave my cell phone behind. And I essentially received complete 360, changeover. It wasn't until day 7 that I finally surrendered. I just started crying and crying. And I went into this state of bliss where for the first time in my life, I have touched myself for who I am, not for what I'm being told and not for what I am not. And the message was so clear. This is, by the way, where the NoaAon came about. Noah means movement. Aeon is all or none, and it symbolizes duality. I played ping pong my whole life, highs and lows, and good days and bad days. And I knew there was another way, and that's coming back into the center. I call it the happiness, health, harmony, the triple H effect, when we start taking charge of our choices and consequences as a natural result. And essentially, I walked out of there, and the message was clear. You got to redefine your passion, which was music for me. So I started learning how to produce, solfeggio frequencies on a modern beat, on a tribal house sound. I also rediscovered my purpose, which was, how do I come from this self-mastery into service? And how can I share this message with other people? And so that's when I started speaking, creating immersive experiences, retreats, workshops of, what we're doing today. And the legacy was, how do I make means with living in service and leave that capitalistic mindset behind? And this is the biggest catch of this, because I think, like a lot of us in a spiritual community, there is this whole process where you don't feel like money is good. There's a lot of belief system around money being evil, and how do we embody abundance on every level while we're not losing our sight of living here on earth. And so I went so spiritual to the other side that within 3 years I have lost everything. So I've made millions of dollars with Orange Theory Fitness, and then I have been stripped away with a simple question: do you really mean this, what you want to do? And
Mm.
so I wasn't fully integrated. And at that point, I have gotten divorced. I lost so many partnerships, all of my money. It was probably the hardest time of my life, that I had to go through this whole process of reinvention until, I found my new wife. And this I went all in on Noah, and I went all into, this mission. And now, I can't believe this, but I am living my dream every single day. Would not change anything. This is something that we literally were, hearing about with my wife last week in New Zealand, where we're like, if we were to change something, like, we're literally living the life we're choosing. And I never thought it's possible, but it is possible. I used to think I can only learn through the gutter, and now I'm learning through love. And essentially the same lessons that we
Mm.
all are going for,
Mm.
life gives us the feedback, and that feedback constantly will be coming back in a form of negative thoughts, emotions, relationships, financials, whatever shape and form it's coming. I used to run away from that, from the pain, but now I look into that. I shine light and, lift it to the higher ways of experiencing, and see that every single time something is not positive, in a judgmental terms, I know that, wow, this is the lesson. And when we look into the lesson, our life can completely transform. So long story short, this has been my
Mm.
hero's journey to the level of where I am today.
Yeah, beautiful. Heard so many, things there. First of all, I love that you said I chose not to learn through the gutter. I chose to learn through love, and that is possible. And I just want to kind of like reflect back to you being born into a spiritual. Shout out to your mom, who infused that spirituality and introduced you to the breath at a young, early age. And I feel like the hatha yoga and things like this, if we can expose our children to learning how to breathe at a young, early age, how that would change the entire fucking world. And then shout out to your father, who kind of instilled within you this entrepreneurial. And it brings me back to these ancient star seeds, and we'll go into that probably at the end. Choose their parents. And, in that choice, there's no victim mode, because I chose my mom. I chose to, and then your hero's journey of going through depression, anxiety, all these different things, which were catapulting you and catalyzing you into different kind of things that you would need later on in life. And then, I really, really kind of like resonated with, that, nothing in this earth, no matter how much money you receive, there's a hole in the soul that only the soul can fill. That place that you started at the beginning, that breathing into that center, breathing into that balance, breathing into that harmony of heaven and earth. And earth wasn't fulfilling it, millions of dollars, all of Orange Theory, hundreds of branches, and then also this other kind of side of like, okay, that's not doing it. Let me go 100% spiritual. And I did that too. And that is like a little ungrounded, but I guess it's sometimes necessary in some people's hero's path. And but and then the thing about doing hard shit, spending a month, doing things that get you uncomfortable, going to the Amazon a month with the Amazonian shamans, doing something every 3 months that like literally like pushes your edge. And that's where we grow, is on the edges. It's not in the comfort zone. It's on the edges when we try new things. And that brings me back to that early childhood characteristic, which was kind of probably infusing your whole hero's journey, which is curiosity, question everything. And so you tried, all these different things. And it's funny to me, and it's not funny. It's very curious to me how the dark room on day 7 out of 8 is finally when you surrendered. Day 7. Walk me through the first 6 days, brother. Like how was that? Like darkroom retreat day 1 through 6.
So, darkness became
Yeah.
my biggest healer. It's so interesting because, I've done, pretty much every psychedelic on the planet Earth, and every
Mhm.
ceremony in the search of this. But it all led me back to breath. It all led me back into our own
Mm.
superpowers, because that's all there. And essentially, what's so magical. So I have done now 10 days in darkness. So I spent over 40 days in that. I'm going again next month. It became my yearly reset. So that's kind of what I spend, my 10 days every year to realign, readjust, and focus on what my true heart's desires are. And essentially the first time, it was really tough, especially the first 4 days, because of the monkey brain. It just keeps on going and going, and it keeps on thinking. And what saved me was I literally went backwards every 7 years that I could remember. And then I start rethinking some of these situations. I start finding gifts about these situations. And then, was there any acceptance or forgiveness? I start releasing it out of my system. So it was almost like this major emotional, let's say cosmic washing machine, where you bring up these thoughts. And I've, part of this path, I've learned that if we don't face our traumas, if we don't face, the places we've hurt someone or somebody has hurt us, it just gets stuck. It's in our nervous system as a memory bank of protection. And if we don't release that or unleash that protection, we will not feel that full creativity, love, and our, potential. So it took me that many days to do that. Now, so the first 4 days I spent on the past. The next 4 days I spent on the future. So I start occupying our mind with, what do I want next? What is my true heart's desire? What is the passion, purpose, and legacy I want to leave behind? And because we don't rarely find enough time to be just with ourselves, just with our thoughts, how do we even know who we are? It came into a teaching. I call it the process of unhooking, where if we don't unhook from everyone and everything, we're constantly living somebody else's life. And essentially, we're constantly on somebody else's agenda. And there's nothing wrong with playing in the construct of the we consciousness, but there is a lot wrong if we're constantly living for someone else but ourselves. And so what came out of it was that once a day, spend 1 hour just with yourself. It's usually the first hour of the day when you go into your breathwork, meditation, you visualize the outcomes, you self-assess. Where am I? Who am I? How do I want this day to go? Once a week, I spend full day off, completely stripped away from the physical food, digital world. And the first half of the day is just on my own. I usually go into a nature and I journal. I just go deep into, how did my last week go? And then the second half of the day, I invite family, friends, and beyond. Once a month, I spend 4 days completely off, where again, it takes about 3 days to completely unhook from the busy, nervous system reactivation or overactivation. And then once a year, it's 10 to 15 days off where I completely reassess, recharge, rebuild. And that came from the dark room. That was like the biggest lesson as to how do we sustain this growth so that way it doesn't have to be so radical every time. And I can give you the history now. Like the first dark room, I changed 360, right? Every single thing on my life has completely shifted. But the second, third, and fourth time, it was minor adjustments because I realigned into the path of who I am supposed to be in this form. And so when you find the time to unhook in these blocks, I find it extremely powerful because then you're constantly understanding and knowing and deciding what those choices are versus letting the external, dictate it for you.
Yeah, I love that. And so just kind of reflecting back, what I heard is like there was this moment where we have to go in and we have to cleanse literally in the body. The body stores the trauma, the body stores the memory. And every 7 years, there's a cycle of consciousness where every cell renews itself. And literally, from my perspective, Brother Noah was going into that dark room, which was quieted the external enough so he could go within. And literally, the subconscious mind is stored in the body. He was going into those 7 year cycles, embracing it with love, light, forgiveness, whatever is needed, and literally cleansing the past, clearing the past, clearing the trauma, clearing the karma, 7 to 11 generations of karma from the ancestors for the first 4 days. And then once that was clear, and this is kind of like the hero's journey that I think a lot of us are going to take, is sometimes early on in the hero's journey, a lot of us are going to be doing a lot of breath work. And this breath, the prana comes in, and it literally, that major trauma, polarized frequency, starts cleansing it, and we have this emotional reaction of crying or laughing, whatever it is. And that's part of the hero's journey, is where we're cleansing the past, healing for our ancestors 7 to 11 generations back. And then the beautiful thing is, the next 4 days is the 7 to 11 generations forward. Because when we heal, there's no time. We're healing our ancestors, but we're also now starting to create a potential for the future of our children 7 to 11 generations forward. And so once, I think, obviously from my perspective, once Brother Noah was able to cleanse that, he was able to then focus in the darkness where the melatonin's coming in really strong. And that's why that 1 hour that Brother Noah spends in the early morning and has that routine is so important, because that, the door to the subconscious world, or the invisible world, when the melatonin is the highest in the early morning, the ancient yogis would go and meditate during that time, because it was easier to connect before the mind is clouded with the things of the day. And it's an easier way. And then he brought it back to the breath. When the mind is quiet, the mind will follow the breath, or the breath will follow the mind. 99% of all psychiatric conditions, 7 years working as a psychiatrist, is when people are identifying with their thoughts only, as if their thoughts are who they are. But this is the process that on the hero's journey Brother Noah was talking about. You unprogram, untether the self from all of your parents' expectations, all of the world's expectations, what everybody wants you to be, until you can find your true balance of just being. And everybody asks me, like, what is my purpose? They come to my ceremonies, what is my purpose? And ultimately, once this past trauma has been cleansed, do the breath work, right? And then once you've been untethered, there's a book called Michael Singer called Untethered Soul. And it's all about the breath. That's what Buddha did under the tree. And one thought at a time, love that. One trauma, okay, love that. Come back to the breath. And when that is cleansed, you come into the state of just being. And I believe service is a state of being. Service is not a verb, it's a state of being. It's who you are. Your vibrational frequency is your service to the world. And from the being comes the doing. From the being, then your higher self can drop in a download or whatever it is, and then from there you can act. So I'm just resonating with kind of the path that Brother Noah was taking. And then I love what you're doing here, and this is something that I'm really wanting to try to implement into my life, is the scheduling, the regular scheduling of being with yourself every morning, unplugging from digital, unplugging and being with yourself in nature. And brother, I would love to delve a little bit more into breath work. For people out there who are listening, I know you travel the world and you give breath work, you do system resets, you do instant presence, and that work, by the way. Why should people learn how to breathe? What and how should they begin that process?
Yeah, so, I always say breath is what you're born with, and breath is what you die with. But what you do between the first breath and last breath is literally what determines the quality, the awareness of your life. And when we lose the sight of breath, we a lot of times tense up. We submit our consciousness to the external, because sometimes we get so obsessed by the external that we're literally in this constant state of fight or flight. And on a physical level, we are over breathers in general. We are also mouth breathers as a civilization. And it is so important that we bring the power of our breath into our nose. Nose is a great filter. It's meant to be resistant training, and also, increases your nitric oxide. There is so many benefits to this. Now, to reverse back, there is, I look at breath from two different categories. There is the subtle breath, the slow ones that you can do at any point of time. And then there's this deep breath, which are the ones that you may do for journeys or resets, or even just simply as alkalizing your blood or increase the energy in your body. Breath is life. There are many teachings, call it the ha in Hawaii, or mana, prana, chi. It's the essence of who and what we are. And when you think about a subtle breath, the golden standard is inhaling in and out your nose, about 5.5 seconds on inhale, 5.5 seconds on exhale. So that's why, by the way, we started with this session, because more frequently you can remember that you're now extending your breath. You are also relaxing into your body. You're increasing your heart rate variability, and you're lowering down your stress. Now, this is science. So if you look into what this simple breath does, that's like the baseline. Then, of course, there's a variety of other subtle breaths that you can use just to maybe hack anxiety. Let's say that you get really stressed out or overworked about something. There is an amazing, I like the Tesla code. It's a 3 seconds inhale into your nose, 6 second hold, and then 9 seconds exhale out your mouth. And do this, 2 to 3 minutes. That's another beauty. You don't have to do it long. So here is actually, by the way, why we call system reset a system reset. It's an extension of a computer, essentially. And when we hold a computer for 2 or more seconds, it resets back to baseline. Now, if you think about your mind, that's the software. The body is the hardware. Now, in our body, right, we're filled with 60-70% with water. And we know, based on a Japanese scientist, that we can program water based on whatever outcomes we want from the superior mind, or AKA intention. Now, where intention goes, your energy flows. And with mind-body connection, body literally responds. Now, we become so disconnected from this powerful connection that we think that it's the opposite, or we also don't even believe that this is how it works. But I always like to say, when we want to download a new software into the computer, we have to connect to the internet to do so. Now, what we're doing within our lives, we connect to the inner net, which happens through shifting our brainwaves from that overly thinking beta, high beta brainwave frequencies, into more of that alpha, theta, so we can reach that subconscious mind and we can reprogram, these thoughts and beliefs inside out. Now, that all happens through the breath. So this is where it all links together, because the breath is what settles your heart rate, or it can speed it up. So when we're doing subtle breathing, it allows us, with simple closing your eyes, you're one step closer to God, because what you're doing is you're stepping straight into that alpha state. When you use the power of visualization, that's when you can access the subconscious mind, or theta brainwaves. And by the way, we've been followed by neuroscientists in our system reset to see what happens. And it's insane what happens in your physical brain during these sessions. And essentially, when we go back into the internet, that's when we can start recoding. What do we want to code? To end it with this little acknowledge, think about the amount of apps you have on your iPhone, whatever you're using. And when you don't use an app, you hold the app and you exit out of it. You delete the app. Well, if you have a whole bunch of apps, beliefs, thoughts, negative, relationships running in your program, it's putting a lot of pressure on your operating system. And so again, this allows that time to delete it and re-download the apps that you want for your body to serve. Now, so that's the subtle breath. Then we've got the deep breathing exercises. And of course, we've got holotropic breath, you've got power breath, 2-part breath, Wim Hof retention breath. There's many different styles, and we teach all of them. We actually use each round in our experiences for different intention, different purpose. And then we also connect the right breath to help, maximize that. And I think for this, what I would love to gift your audience is we can give a free on-demand library in the description that will allow people to try all of this. So you're going to have the subtle, you're going to have the fast. So that way you can decide what works for you. Because ultimately, I always say, does it work? Does it not? And whichever one works for you, use it, embrace it, and add to it. Because that's all we're doing in the history, right? We're just keep on developing something that has been proven to work and making it, integrating it into our own circles that will work for our communities.
Yeah, brilliant. I just want to kind of reflect to the audience the gift that Brother Noah is offering here. First of all, it's coming from a source that has done a lot of work in this lifetime. And that is important because there's codes that Brother Noah has downloaded that when he's leading a breath work, these codes are also going to be infused from the internet that Brother Pavel was, into his breath, into his sound, which is reprogramming the water. So just want to, and then also kind of, he just laid out a fucking map for you to be able to reprogram your subconscious mind to download from the internet a limitless, whatever it is you want to do in this lifetime. He was talking about getting into alpha brainwaves through the breath and then into theta brainwaves. That's where you can reprogram the iPhone of the brain into programs that serve you. And then, he's also going to offer in this gift package, and we'll link it in the links, the powerful breath. And the powerful breaths are the ones that can really increase your energy. Nothing changes until you change your energy. And so, he literally listed holotropic, 2-part, all these different things. And like he said, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And in that, literally, like, I don't know what that was, 5-minute summary, listen to that again, because Brother Noah literally just went over almost every component of the aspects of breath in those 5 minutes. And it's a lot there, but it's laid out there, if you really listen to what he just said. Noah literally just laid out from top to finish, like literally everything you need to know about breathwork in that 5-minute last run that he did, from the subtle to going into alpha, to going into theta to reset the software and the hardware. And then he went into the mechanics about the water behind that. And then he went into literally the power breaths for energy, for clearing, for all different types of things. And I know it was a very unique, beautiful way of explaining it. But like, if you guys might want to re-listen to that 5-minute segment that Noah just downloaded about, and that's all embodied knowledge, it's wisdom, in that last 5-minute segment, because I literally believe, as a psychiatrist, 99% of every single psychiatric condition is when people identify with their thoughts and they're not in their breath. And when I'm breathing into my abdomen, and I forget sometimes too, and so I'm speaking to the choir, I'm literally connecting and bringing, in the beginning, God breathed into man the breath of life. Breath is spirit, chi, prana, as Noah said. And I'm bringing that spirit from the upper chakras, the diaphragm where fear is stored, is now moving, and that fear becomes excitement, into chakra 321, bringing heaven to earth. And breath is free energy. And if you guys click on the link where Noah's going to provide you guys with like power breaths and 2-part breath and holotropic breath, you're going to find that nothing will change until you change your energy. And breath is food for the nervous system. And, when you literally do these breaths, and whether it's subtle or power, you'll know, like, for every situation, there's a breath. And if there's one thing I think that if you can do in this lifetime, my recommendation would be learn how to breathe. Because if you master your breath, you'll master your mind, because the breath will follow the mind, or the mind will follow the breath. If you master your mind through the breath, then the universe is mental through the law of hermetics. And then you will literally start mastering your hologram through the power of the breath. And if you guys can, follow Noah on Instagram, because he's literally doing these events all around the world. And he's carrying codes, and he's got a team, and like they're incorporating breath, movement, and sound into it, and joy and love, and unity. And so I think that it's just a powerful container, from what I can see and feel, to experience the power of your breath. And so check him out, NoaAon, NoaAon, on Instagram. And he's doing a retreat in Austin coming up soon, and he travels around the world. So check out that schedule. Brother, I want to delve in a little bit into the world of biohacking. I know that played a pivotal role in your life. Walk me into it. What is it, for people who are just kind of getting introduced to it? How can it help people? And then can you take me into some of like your favorite recent technologies?
Yeah, totally. So, I think firstly, some people think it's cheating, and I think it's just like any label, right? It's just a term that essentially really explores human optimization, taking charge of your physical world as well as the environment around you. It's a trending term, right? But really, if you think about it, how to actually embody this, what it means is you look into every aspect of you, and then you figure out, based on cutting edge science, how to personally create a journey that will heal you, that will bring you performance, energy. And so when I think about biohacking, and I'm going to use a quick model for this. So after all of this travel that I've been on, I figured out that like life is actually way more simple than we make it. And we operate in a micro and macro cycles through which we get these experiences that will keep on coming back to us from different people, from different thoughts, emotions, until we shine the light to them and lift them up to the higher potential. Now, what I came to a conclusion, the microcycle is something I call the me, the individual consciousness, something that all of us can focus on, change, and alter. Now, that is part of this journey through self-transformation, essentially, that we're all on. And it's funny, and a cliche, right? We call it the body, mind, soul, emotions. But it's as a cliche as this is actually the direct outlook on us, where to follow and where to focus. So for me, it started with a physical body, and this is when biohacking can be so helpful, because when you think about your body, your temple, mine was so unhealthy. It was sick, it had depression, it had all of this chemistry in the brain that it was not giving me feelings of happiness. And so it's sometimes hard to feel happy and joyous if you have low serotonin or low dopamine. And so when it comes to the body, it really comes to the physical grounding elements. And that is, what's the right exercise? How do you sleep well so you can get a deep sleep, because that's where we restore the most? What is the diet, nutrition that we're nourishing our bodies with? Because everybody's different. Everybody has to find their path through, maybe first elimination, and then go into, really focusing on those things that the body wants. And so then it also goes into, how do we supplement? In today's diet, there is not enough food, or based on where we live, maybe we're low on vitamin D. So it all starts with, testing, like really understanding where you are with the physical body. Um, the second part is the mind, the mental body. And something, that I want to discern here is, you've got two minds, essentially. There's that limitless mind, which speaks to us through the spirit, through the soul. And then there's the limited mind that I call the monkey brain, or egoic self, or small self, right? Many different labels. This is the protector that we've been gifted to be able to operate on a physical level. And essentially, mind is limited because it only learns from the past and projects into the future. This is why we keep on seeing the same lessons and same things, because we continue to be fed by that limited mind. Now, mind is a tool, and I like to use it as a billboard. So I literally ask my mind to step aside, and just like a billboard, you can observe what it's telling you, or you can just pass and keep on moving forward without, those suggestions. 95% of our thoughts is just repetition and clutter. And it's up to us to make the mind work for us as a tool instead of against us, that can ruin our lives in a lot of ways because of what we're believing. And you've touched on this from the psychiatrist level. Now, when you think about mind, so what I did in my journey, every single time I thought something negative about myself or about another, I wrote it down on a piece of paper, I scratched it, and I rewrote it. So anytime I start thinking that same pattern, I would keep on rereading what I actually want to think about myself and about another, because mind creates our reality. It's a huge tool of creation. Now, when I start finally getting a hands on the leash of the mind, which this would be like a mind hacking, right? So we have a biohacking or body hacking. You've got the mental hacking. Now we're moving into the emotional hacking, which essentially for me was facing out my traumas, is lifting up that apathy, fear, guilt, sorrow, suffering, anywhere I felt these negative emotions, which, by the way, are the superpower of our creation, of our life. We tend to be limited in that. We tend to focus on all the fearful and guilt and jealousy type emotions, which are there, in a great way to teach us. But once we unbuckle them, we're meant to feel love. We're meant to feel joy. And that's kind of even back to the journey we talked about. When we are done with learning from the gutter, everything is connected, everything is intertwined, as above, so below. And these are universal laws we all operate in, which we think that we give the power out to these emotions and to these thoughts, but it's time to bring it back in. And so I had to go on a ride of people, who have I hurt? Who has hurt me? What situations have hurt me? And, this is when I really went deeply in to open up the emotional, body. The fourth aspect of the individual consciousness is your spirit or your soul. Some people call it the higher self, the realized self, the original source, energy, vibration. It matters not how you call it. What's really important is that this speaks to you through 4 senses. Some people call it the spiritual senses, psychic senses, different terms again. Now, I've learned this with the psychics in Brazil that essentially taught me we've got 5 physical senses that get us in trouble in a lot of ways because it's the instant gratification. And then we've got the 4 psychic senses, which are here to navigate that limitless source of information. Now, when we start listening to higher self, it talks to us through 4 ways. First one is your inner hearing. Those are the little whispers that we all have that are telling us maybe turn off the Netflix at night, start working out, quit drinking alcohol. Whatever that is telling us, the way we strengthen that is we acknowledge them. So thank you, I heard that. What you gonna do about that? Now, when you start listening to these senses and following with this sense, what started happening for me, it became louder and louder until it started integrating with the egoic mind. Now, the second sense is your inner seeing. These are the visionaries of the world that can have direct impressions of the future, of the past, or they see colors. It usually comes to us in a lucid dreaming state. And same thing, we strengthen it with acknowledging it and following what it's showing us. Then you've got your inner feeling. This is the empaths of the world. And this is when you walk into a room and something doesn't feel right. And maybe there was a fight, in the room before you stepped into that. You simply feel it in your body. And this comes through the feelings. And essentially, when we feel something, we got to acknowledge it. We got to look into it and follow it to strengthen it. The last one is your inner knowing, which is your intuition. And this is the one that can be the hardest one to discern. But this is when you knew you shouldn't have gotten to the party. You knew that that person was cheating on you. And when you know, you don't require to think. And when you think, you don't know. When you know, you don't think. It's the easiest way to discern. But because of the egoic mind's agenda, right, it jumps in and sometimes can be hard to discern in this sense. But these are the 4 psychic senses through each of us operate. And, maybe we call it the spirit hacking, right? So we've got the mind, body, emotion, spirit. That's the individual consciousness. That's the me that you can take charge of. Now, because biohacking is also a broad term into the we, the collective, that's when it starts really getting interesting. And I break this down into 2 things. There is the relationships, which maybe do this right now, actually. You can imagine yourself sitting in the center of 5 people or 10 people that you spend the most time with. And you can literally imagine them holding hands around you and just go one by one, do a quick assessment. Are these people bringing me to my greatest good? Are they reflecting the best of me? And am I reflecting the best of them? Or are there any minor adjustments that you have to do in order to create the army of angels around you? Because for me, I had to delete a lot of relationships out of my system and uplift the ones, especially families, that were having issues, because they stay with you, right, all your life. And so relationship is a huge piece to this. And then it's the environment. Environment is everything that makes the difference from the outside in, such as, the paint that you're breathing, the air that you're breathing, the food that you're eating, clothes that you're wearing. EMFs that you're being exposed to, anything on the outside that penetrates back into the me, it needs to be created an environment that constantly serves you and nourishes you. So this is the we, collective consciousness. The last part of this is the be. I call it a supra consciousness or supra collective. And this, by the way, this is the model. So I call it a me,
Yeah.
we, and be model. And essentially that's the macro cycles, right? If we zoom out, we are such a little dot in this vast ocean, right? If we know that universe was created, our universe, 13.5 billion years ago, how did we get here, right? We're off this huge, vast ocean operating on all of these levels. And each and every level allows you to hack the proper journey for yourself, for your transformation, so you can realign, come back into your center, remember how powerful and beautiful and strong that you are, and then keep on expanding, through these cycles. So me, we, be.
Yeah. Beautiful. There's so much there. Can you walk me a little bit through EMFs? Kind of a trending topic recently, and would love your take, your perspective on what is it, and without becoming like too worried about it, how can we take a protection over our environment?
Absolutely. So, I used to be non-believer in this because it's actually a really touchy subject for a lot of people, and it's very diverse subject because you've got half of the world, especially from the communication companies, stating it's safe, there is no problem, and then you've got the actual scientific world that is not funded by these agencies that has over 6,000 studies proving that it's detrimental to our health. And it wasn't until I moved to Houston that I actually start really paying attention to this, because during the COVID, we were working on this amazing project, this world's first ever biohacking hotel out of Houston. And essentially, I've never lived in like such a heavy, dense city. But what happened was I was already very healthy, right? I was biohacking. I was doing all of the things I'm doing today. But essentially, I start not being able to sleep. I had a mild depression. I kept on getting anxiety. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, what is this? After all of this healing I've been on, like, there is no
Yeah.
way, right? This is coming back. And so what happened was I looked outside my window, and about 200 feet away, there was a 5G tower that was literally placed there, when they were rolled out during COVID. So then I start looking in, like something intuitively told me, look into this subject. And in biohacking, it's a huge term, and it's hugely widely accepted as something we have to be not just concerned about, but also be able to operate, with, because obviously there is nowhere we're getting a break from it, right? Like it's just going to be more of technology around us. And so what I did, I went into this deep subject. And by the way, I created a webinar, which happy to share. It's a free webinar where I actually had a third party view, not being a scientist, not being a doctor, like actually just like, how do we operate in this world with EMFs? And by the way, it stands for electromagnetic frequencies, and there is man-made and non-man-made EMFs. The man-made ones are the ones that those are our cell phones, Bluetooth, radio towers, smart appliances. It's also, satellites everywhere around us, right? But the natural EMFs, that's like things like sun, we've been exposed to forever, and we can totally be just fine, within that. Now, in this journey, what I've discovered is that 9 out of 10 cell phones are over the limit. When we are using 5G towers, it's so unnatural, not just to us, also to birds, to animals, to water. It's just polluting electromagnetically, all within the space. And so what I did is I wanted to figure out a solution, right? As with everything, I want to hack it to be able to live within it.
Yeah.
And so I've tried every product out there. I did everything that I could. And it wasn't until I discovered this product that uses something called depolarization, which basically renaturalizes the space around you to be able to come back into its natural state up to 90%. And so essentially it's called waveguard, and it's a key device or key technology that essentially works on this depolarization that is fantastic when it comes to the environment, when it comes to the space around you. Now, the general ways, for example, I have my phone, covered. I use Defender Shield for personalized like laptops or cell phones or anything that, for example, headphones, right? Like you want to use cord with your headphones. And I even have ones with a tube that are actually, that are completely blocking EMFs off to come into your brain. But the easiest way to look at this is distance is the key. So never, for example, have your phone around your ears. Use a speaker, or don't use Bluetooth headphones. Bluetooth literally radiates through our brain and can cause a huge set of issues. The other things to look at is, for example, smart meters. Anything smart is very dumb. I hate to say it, but we don't need to have refrigerators that are constantly connected to Wi-Fi. We don't need to have, this immense amount of Wi-Fi in everything, because what it does, it just keeps on running through your body. Now, think about it as like a focus beams, as an EMF that comes from your neighbors, from your cell phones, Bluetooth, and more exposed we are to it, it's essentially like toxins. You get enough toxins in your body and something will burst. That's the same thing. We have to practice EMF hygiene, because if we're constantly pounded by it, we may feel depression, our lack of energy. It's directly related to DNA issues as well in our body. Alzheimer's, there's insomnia, or even chronic pain. Pain is linked to EMF, by the way. There's a whole bunch of studies on this as well, which I never, really taught. And so when I start looking at first, what do I clean up in my space, right? Like how to mitigate, then how to go into a proactive mode. What products do I need to actually accelerate, right? That was basically my journey into EMF. And, now it became so strong that we literally, we educate the people about this, because if you Google, are EMFs harmful? Google will tell you, no, there's no evidence that they're harmful. And it's a lie.
Yeah. So a couple takeaways for me on that is EMFs are real, number one. And I know like a lot of us are out there. Is it real? Is it not real? And so until you have that experience, I know it's not easy to believe, but there's invisible X-rays, there's invisible gamma rays, there's invisible 5G. So the first thing that I took away, and these are just like the practical points from kind of channeling there, is number one, it's real. Number two, it can, mess with the oxygen, mess with the cells, mess with the brain, cause depression, cause anxiety, especially if you're living in a dense big city. Number three, distance is the key. And so I love those practical tips, because you covered it like on the phone, right? A lot of these phones are going 5G right now, and some studies say 5G can decrease the ability of oxygen to bind to the hemoglobin. And so wearing that, if you want to call it Defender Shield, I think is what Noah said, and then also distance on the laptop, don't placing it on your lap, and then also the wave guard. I think that's one thing I have not explored. And is that something, Noah, that you carry around with you? Is that like something you just have in your backpack, or how does that work? Is it like a distance torus field around you, or?
Yes, yes. So essentially, waveguard has three different types. It's the Key Shield, Key Home, and Key Max. Key Shield is something I travel with. It's something that you can put in your car, because, by the way, Tesla or any electric cars or any smart cars, they emit. It's like being inside of a microwave. And especially when
Wow.
you're charging it, there's all these videos. We have it on the webinar as well. We have this video with a meter to show what happens when you're inside of Tesla. And where it's the worst is where we put our kids, at the back of the seat, by the way. So,
Wow.
and then kids, sorry, to finish this, kids have no safety limits of EMF because their skulls are so tiny. And majority of the studies that are funded by telecommunication companies are based on 220-pound men, which is only 3% of the population, with a huge skulls. So that's why they don't see that same, effect in a short burst of times. But no matter who you are, everybody is affected by it. it is not natural to our system. And so the key technology is the most studied one actually on the market. They have all of these studies linked to this actual effect called depolarization. There's no other product that can actually depolarize or renaturalize harmful EMFs. So like we were talking about the focus beams, think about all of these, rays of EMFs coming through you or through your home. That takes that and renaturalizes it back into our natural state. And so that's the simplest way to look at it. So you can be in an environment again that works for you. And we've gotten so far into this that we now sell these on our website, but we have a team of people that we've put that you can actually book a free consultation. That this is kind of like our giveaway, what we do, what we teach people, where one of our team members will ask you, what is your size of your house, where do you work, all of the main details, and then they will exactly tell you based on your situation how to ideally mitigate. And we've got the freeway, obviously, so like how do you get it if you don't have the means to do it, and then we've got the full-on way, right, how you completely eliminate it out of your system.
There's 3 different forms of the waveguard. If you want to book that free 15-minute consultation, I think this is an important topic, especially to, I don't know, for me, what I'm feeling is now, right? Because from my perception, the EMFs might even be getting even stronger. And so I think it's important for us now to start protecting our children and protecting our frequencies, protecting our mood. And so I love that model, though, where you get a 15-minute consultation and it's literally like, they're telling you, the experts are telling you how to do it. And so, yeah, amazing. Brother, just real quick, there's like a psychedelic revolution going on right now. And I know, you spent a month with the shamans out there, and also breathwork can get you there. What's your take on this psychedelic revolution? Any word for the people who might be listening? I would love your perspective on this upcoming psychedelic revolution, how to navigate that in a good way, or if to navigate that.
Yes, I have a lot to say about this because, I used to use psychedelics for the wrong purpose. I mean, not always, but when it comes to like psilocybin, I would use it in a party settings. I would use it in a Burning Man settings. I was there on that journey, and it's really interesting. So it wasn't until I went into South Africa. I spent 10 days with these 2 women that hold the sacred keys to this wisdom. And it was actually a iboga and ibogaine cleanse that I came there to do. And part of their cleanse is that day 5, you take a hero dose of mushrooms, which is about 5.5 grams for me. And essentially, up until that moment, I did not understand truly what it means to what are they actually for. And what they taught me is that they actually gave me no music, no colors. I had to have a blindfold on for that 5-6 hour journey, and I was only by myself without anyone. And I thought I'm going to go nuts, even though I've taken a lot. I've never taken this much in one setting. And essentially, what was really interesting is I was way more conscious and aware than I was on a lower dose. And it was an instant bypass into the energetic world, which showed me the ways and paths of deception, how we're being deceived on a constructual level. This is a whole nother podcast. I'm not going to dive into the deception because that's something that we all have to receive. But what was amazing is when we don't listen to the constructs, when we are not going into it for just the colors and all the flashy stuff, after you clear your subconsciousness, after you get through the turmoil, that comes in the first 30 to 60 minutes when you gotta like see these things that we are loaded with, right? Especially from internet and TVs and movies, that stuff first wants to come out. Once you bypass that, it essentially was, I've done it maybe couple times ever since then. I've never done it in a group again. I've always kept it as a sacred medicine. And so what I'm seeing in today's world is this misuse. We are becoming so aware of our conscious journey that we're actually being deceived by our spiritual ego. I call it the highest level of ego is the spiritual ego. that becomes so conscious that it's consciously aware of subconsciousness and consciousness itself. Oh, sorry, it's a mingle. But what I mean by this mingle is that we start justifying everything. And so we start calling it medicine. We go into these journeys, and I'm actually quite always against people taking, any sorts of psychedelics before these breathwork journeys, because the breathwork is powerful itself, and it's meant to be used to directly link us into the spiritual world, so we can start realigning our things on the spirit side of things. But when we use it for the music, for the dance, for the parties, for the colors, we're completely misusing it for the true purpose of why that was gifted to us as a direct access to God or to this spiritual world. And so I want to say is that using it within yourself, as little as possible with groups, because I've also been shown how much of a darkness start coming in without the right container on any of these psychedelics, on any of drugs that we have. So it's a deep responsibility that has to be carried on. It's also extremely important to do it. If you do it in a group, it's a group of people that holds this space of spiritual greatest intentions and love, because otherwise you're going to pick up on more than you've come to realize. And there's always darkness and light, and the darkness always seeks portals in which you're open and unconscious to be able to step inside and be fed by the polarity of that side. And I've had this experience in Ecuador, where I had this literally dark forces wanting to enter from the back of my side. I literally put up all these shields around me, and it was like a fight at first, until I realized I am light. I step into the boundary of love and light. But it's literally, people are not even conscious of that coming in. And that's the scary part of how we're misusing it in today's world. And so a lot of these shamans have told me that, the spirit of ayahuasca, the spirit of psilocybin or cannabis, in a lot of ways have left us in these settings because of uh, this capitalization on it, because of this overuse of it, kind of like tobacco. Imagine what people have done with cigarettes. Imagine what people have done with cocaine. There is nothing more beautiful than mambe, or even deeper, that the shamans call it even something else than mambe, because that's already processed to them. And so essentially, when we use these beautiful tools with respect, with love, for our deepest spiritual journey, they are amazing and powerful, not all the time, right? There is integration that has to happen. And sorry, I have so much to say on this, but the last thing I will say is, if we have all these mystical experiences, what are they for if we're not able to embody them in everyday life? We came here to live on earth for a reason, and these mystical experiences are amazing and powerful, but only if we can actually utilize them in everyday life.
I learned a new word. Fucking ho. So what I mean by that is everything he just said. Guys, once again, I just want you guys to re-listen to that, what he just said, okay? Because it's all in there. Yeah, it's all in there. The upcoming psychedelic revolution. Listen to those words carefully, because yeah, it'll be in your subconscious or whatever. But as you start navigating that psychedelic journey, I think a lot of really important wisdom was shared in that. Okay. Well, moving on here. One other subject really quick I want to delve into before we wrap up here. A few things real quick is dance and music. Okay, I saw your DJing style. I saw it on Instagram. You had this, I don't even know, pink headband. You're at some Dave Asprey concert. And I was like, yeah. I was like, Noah got it, man. Yeah, but like on a deeper note, yeah, breath, music, and sound. You're doing all those three things combined, and to me, those are the most powerful things: breath, movement, and sound in synergy in those areas. So walk me through a little bit about dance and music and how music might save the world, and how, kind of where you're at with that, and any word on dance and music.
At the beginning, there was a word, vibration,
Let's
sound,
go. Yeah.
frequency. it all comes from that foundation. And literally, music and sound can unite us. This is something that we all can, at the hardest time, come back to. It's the best friend for many of us in creating more joy, in moving us out of depression. And whatever sound makes your heart smile, makes your heart flutter. Music, by the
Mm.
way, or dancing or losing yourself in timelessness is the way we refuel our emotions. So just like we have to fuel our mental body, physical body, we too have to refuel our emotional body. And it happens through these moments of creativity. Maybe it's art, maybe it's creating, composing, or singing music. Maybe it's just dance, and maybe it's just a deep conversation. But it's when we lose time, when we move into the place of timelessness, is when we start receiving all these insights. This is when we refuel the emotional body. So for us, it's everything. And that's why we call it the BDM, by the way. I come from the EDM, but BDM is breath, dance, meditation. And what I
Mm.
found is that it's basically, after 15 years of traveling, we put all of the tools that work, that are effective, that are simple, and that have scientific backing behind them. We integrated them into these experiences. And so that's, by the way, that's what people receive in the System Reset, is a full-blown musical show. We've got drummers, instrumentalists, singers, sound healers, cacao. It's like, think about you going into, I don't say Vegas, but we have done Area 15 in Vegas, so I will use it. But
Yeah.
imagine that you go and socialize and network and you connect with humans, but from the spiritual level. And that's the foundation. Music is really and truly, fundamental to it. And that's why, I had to learn how to produce and how to DJ and how to mix this. And, for me, I found it in deep house. I love Afro, tribal, shamanic, senses. So that way we still have the traditional in it, but we are using the digital, foundation, and the higher BPM, around the 124 to 126 is where I found to be closest to our heartbeat when we're dancing, when we're moving.
That's a new genre, huh? BDM, breath dance
Yep.
music. I like that. Yeah, you got to coin that. Amazing. Cool. And just want to also, like, I saw a video on Instagram where you were with your partner and you guys were in the middle of the road after probably an event or something, and you guys started holding hands and doing breath work together, eye gazing, and then you all turned around and you connected spines, the throne of God together. And then you ended it, right there in the middle, and people were walking by. And talk to me a little bit about tantra and partnership and sacred sexuality.
Absolutely. So this was actually yesterday in New Zealand. So we were in Auckland before our
Hmm.
13-hour flight
Yeah.
to LA. And essentially, what we did is we did a 3 rounds of deep breath work, so we can oxygenate our body before the flight. We also went on the
Mm.
sun, so that way we can receive proper light therapy before being closed in a dark hole. And then we also, she had a child on her heart. So my partner Ferry,
Mm.
which we at the
Yeah.
end, we were sending all her love and gratitude to
Mm.
charge her before the flight as
Wow.
well. And
Yeah.
there's so much that we haven't fully released, and I think we're stepping into this together, because our goal was, because people always have all of these excuses, right? So they're like, wait until you have a child together, everything changes. And then wait until I don't know, you get married, everything changes. And so we're going to eventually release like a course for conscious couples, because the journey that we've had is absolutely just outstanding. She met me when I was at the lowest. I had zero money. I was in complete depression. I was still drinking alcohol, doing drugs, because I was having so much pain in that process of getting divorced and coming out of that phase. And somehow she still saw light in me. Somehow she still was able to put up with the person that I fall into at that time. And essentially, we've had a couple years of just deep cleansing and clearing and reflecting, until we both did the work, right, separately on our own, within the framework that we discussed today. And then we came back together to really enrich this love, this vibration, this connection. And so what we've learned is that, we're now learning through our dreams, through our love, through joy. And it wasn't always like this until, we went on this work. And essentially, for us, it's a constant, opening, communication, finding the right blocks and times to ask about our dreams and where do we want to go. But it all comes after we are complete, after we are full on our own, so that way we can accelerate it that much faster. And when we come from this place of acceleration, of this is commonality, of a unified vision, everything happens way faster, because 1 + 1 is not 2, it's exponential, it's quantum. And so what we did with that exercise, we moved into that group coherence, we move into that quantum, so that way we can then go out into the world and reflect this magical part. And relationships can be the hardest things that you ever go through in your life, which was for me before. And it can also be the most magical and beautiful thing that we go into this life when we are ready to receive the right partner. And so I always say, I had past marriage, and I've had different experiences, but until I've really faced myself and looked at myself in a mirror, I wasn't ready to see that in another person's mirror. And I didn't receive her in my life until I was ready in that right frequency for the right partner, because then it becomes easy, then it becomes lighter. And as much as we can learn, again, through two ways, right, in relationships, we can learn through the opposites, or we can learn through the similarities. And we are so much alike with my partner, so we are learning from similarities, which is much easier way than before. It was a complete opposition. Now bringing a child, my partner had to accept I have two other kids, so I have total 3 kids. I've got 2 kids with my former wife, and then I've got a new baby, which is 5 months. Her name is Pixie, which was named by people that kept on seeing pixies around us before we even had her. And this child, I mean, we've cleared our Akashic records, we've realigned our souls, we have swam with the dolphins. We were called to have her in a dolphin bay in Hawaii. I mean, this child has come from such a crazy strong, she's a Venusian background that she came in here, that it's insane. Because since she was born, so she's 5 months, right? She's been on almost 50 flights. She's visited 7 countries, and she's part of every workshop that we go to. And at first we were a little worried, because sometimes, she likes to chat, and she's a loud chatter, let's put it this way. And even though we're using silent disco headphones, we've got the mic so people can hear her through the mic. And so this last event in Queenstown in New Zealand, we were a little worried, like, oh my gosh, like, are people okay? We've had several people come after us that literally she made the sound in a perfect moment where they were dealing with all this shit, right? So it's crazy how this beautiful little being, without even knowing how to speak yet, she's already affecting people.
Wow. Yeah. One takeaway from that for everybody listening is write on a board every quality you want in a partner and become that. And that frequency, when we do our own work, will then lead to that partnership, that is a reflection. And, and then from there, I love that, the constant opening, constant communication, the constant growing. And then that is the most powerful force on the planet, is when that magnetic female frequency, they're all balanced, but like, a magnetic advantage, a positive male electric frequency come together and synergize. And I love that 1 + 1 is not, it's not even 2, it's not even 3, Holy Trinity, it's quantum, it's exponential. And then from that place, once the work is done, these ancient souls who, crystal children, whatever you want to call them, who perhaps some of them have not even incarnated on earth before, once the parents do the work, they clear that karma and the trauma, they're like, okay, I'll choose that sacred womb, I'll choose that father. and they're coming in hot. And these kids are the future. They're literally fourth, fifth, and sixth strand DNA. Their higher sensory perceptions already online. Therefore, in the middle of the breath work, they can literally drop little codes to people through Daddy's mic. And talk to me a little bit about that, because you've been on this amazing journey, hero's journey. And I know when I first asked you, like, where are you from? You said, I'm an alien. And so this cosmic, if you want to call it, revelation, disclosure, some people call it. Walk me through a little bit about your cosmic and where humanity is and how this is gonna kind of unfold according to your experience and perspective.
Totally. So a lot of my opening into this world came from Jasmuheen, which is the lady that hosts dark rooms. She's a breatharian, and so part of the dark room is initiation into how to be solely nourished by prana. But the first time that I went, it was really far out there for me to even like get this. I mean, she starts talking to, the Galactic Federation. She starts channeling all of these different people, and like her sound, her voice changes in the midst of it. I mean, it was really insane, right? But then I start reading a lot of books from Dolores Cannon, who is she does quantum hypnosis. She's passed away now, but I've literally listened to all of her 30 books that are out there because I was so mesmerized by this information of really remembrance, right? Like we all know this, but it's like, oh my gosh, it makes sense, finally. And she talks about everything from life between lives. She talks about she literally directly connected through other people with Nostradamus. There is the initial book that I read was Keepers of the Garden, which was one of her clients that all of a sudden was on a different planet. And so it talks about other lifetimes and planets. So that was for me like the foundation of really understanding or remembering, right, intellectually in this form. And then it wasn't until I met this lady called Tatum, who essentially focuses on soul realignment work. And it was when I hit a roadblock in my life where I continued to getting the same set of emotions and mental patterns, as well as this painful relationship I had with my former wife. There was so much drama that just, even though I've done so much work on this present life, it just wouldn't, go, it wouldn't leave. And so then she accessed my Akashic record and essentially found out that the only person that reincarnated with me in this life form was my former wife from, I think, like 13 lives ago. And, this can be really out there, right? So it really doesn't matter how many lives. It's not the point. The point is that the lessons, right? Like it's the point is that we're having some form of mental, emotional, physical distraction that is not, going away, right? So back to like grounding it, right? And integrating it. And so for me, because I hit this roadblock, she cleared my Akashic record. She also then taught me a lot about where I'm from, what is my soul group, which is from, I'm Syrian, so from Sirius. And we all come from a different soul groups. And some people are rarely fresh and new. Well, actually, now it's more and more, like you were saying, it affirms that. Or other people are created here, right? Earth is their first, destination. But essentially, it was such a deep work that it cleared that painful relationship with my former wife. So all of that agitation and fear and pain, essentially, she was the one that hurt me dramatically in that life. But then I came into this conclusion to essentially come in that form that I am hurting her, right, in this life. And so she kept on being attacked by me, even though I felt no intention to like there was no attack in that sense. And it kept on coming right to her from all of these ways. So then I asked her, would you be willing to also do this session? And she ended up doing the session as well. She now works with this lady on ongoing basis, and I do too. So I have a weekly calls with her. She's like my soul doctor in a lot of ways with realigning. She does manifestation blueprint, how to manifest within our actual blueprint, because everybody's different. She also does soul sovereignty, where you can actually tap into the most prominent time spent here on earth, and then she can tell you, are you giving too much energy or life force out, or are you receiving the same energy back? And if you're, if people are taking more from you, in a simple terms, right, there is a disbalance, and then you're going to feel it or see it in your, present life. So that's another really powerful work. And, to end this with, like, spirit is the foundation, right? Like, it's not the physical body, that's the final part. And so if we think about this as, spirit hacking again, right, if we bring it back into the biohacking terms, this is a way how you can fundamentally make shifts, so that way then it represents in the mental, emotional, and physical body.
Yeah, beautiful. Spirit hacking. Yeah. And we are cosmic, we are galactic. And Dolores Cannon is a great resource. And I think once we have that intention, to awaken an open-mindedness, I think more and more and more and more these conversations will become quite how can I say? Yeah, I don't know if normal is the right word, but a lot more of us are going to start waking up to our galactic cosmic origins, which is beautiful. Okay. Last thing I got for you, brother, is your one big vision is unity, is in the word unify. I know not to go too much into the future or anything like that. Humanity seems to be at a very interesting kind of point in its history, and would love to hear kind of your vision for humanity and the unification, and what that might look or feel like to you.
Absolutely. So we create reality, right? And and this has been proven by quantum science, that there is all of these probable scenarios that are playing out at the same time, but it's up to us to match the right frequency with the right scenario that is for us. So I used to be quite scared, like what's going to happen, what's going to come, and, like, doomsday type experiences, because a lot of those, for example, Nostradamus's projections are not good. I mean, yes, we're going to make it, we're going to survive, we're going to move into the light, or those that will shift into this. But there's also a lot of death, right? A lot of fear and a lot of pain. Now, there was a point in life that I've tuned into this, but what it led me to is that we have the choice to decide which place we want to go into. And the number one single most important thing that I teach any of the cancer patients that I work with, I receive, for whatever reason, I keep on getting people that are stage 4 cancer. Somehow they find me and they think that I will help them. And it's such an honor, because the first person I had, I burst into tears, because I was like, who am I to, like, I have no clue, but then I start getting all of the lessons, and I start getting all of the teachings. And for example, this particular lady, she is now free of cancer. And so what's crazy about this, what it taught me, is the first lesson I had was to become a dreamer of your own dreams. If we stop dreaming, then we cut the energy or the life force of the flow of where we're going. And so when we get so mesmerized or so obsessed by, like, today, and, like, the issues and the problems and the fears in the world, we're cutting literally cords of energy force into our life. And so whenever you feel this fear, whenever you have these objections, especially in the next 10 years, stay above the clouds. And you can do this literally. You can literally imagine the place above the clouds. And what I highly suggest is imagine a memory as if you were on your last breath today, and start visualizing and imagining what would your life look like if you went backwards into the last breath. What are all the true heart's desires? How did you spend time? Who were you with? Who did you meet? What did you learn? What did you create? Just be the dreamer of your own dreams. Charge it with the emotion, and then set the intention and attention. How are you going to get there? And so what you do then is you break it down into time segments. So let's say 10 years from now is the next one. Then visualize what are all the outcomes that you've done on that dream. Then you bring it down to 3 to 5 years, or maybe even just a year from now. So imagine that 1 year from now, what are all the outcomes that are moving you towards the dream? Then you drop it down into a month, and then all the way down into a day. So that way you spend 1 to 4% of your every single day on realizing your dreams, because dreams are meant to be lived. They're not something that when I have money, when I all of the different stories of how our egoic mind is tricking us to not realizing our dreams. And then when you spend the time, then you do the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly reassessment. Where am I going? Where am I heading? And we do this beautiful tree of life meditation in our experiences where we literally, download it as a file. And just like any file on a computer, we store it in our body so we can reopen and reimagine those dreams as we're expanding, right? Because they're going to change, they're going to be added. Some things will no longer be functioning. That's the game that we're playing, right? That's the beauty of a dance of this life. But when we stop dreaming, we literally stop living. And so, to bring it back into your question, because I went around it, I truly believe if we all take charge of our life, if we all come back to the me, if we all come back into the dreams, then we connect with the communities into the we're going to be living in our own reality in which all of these hardships and fears and pains, it will eventually fall off. It has fallen off for me. So like I literally have not learned through any of this pain for quite a long time now. And imagine that we each take the same responsibility. We each do the work. We each follow back and realign into our greatest expression. Then guess what? Quantum comes in. And now that's the leap that we're shifting. That reality will be exactly what we decide to have it. And trust me, more people want to, experience peace and love and joy in this life than not. And those that do want, it's just the responsibility that they have to take to shift that into that reality of our lives.
Yeah, beautiful. Be the dreamer of your dreams. Weave in the structure that you just laid out in order to do that, and committing a little bit of time, not cutting that cord to the dream into the future, and then we literally create our reality from that place. But I wanted to just ask you one more question here about not creating from a place of pain, and you've entered into the state of creating from a place of joy. For anybody out there who's learning, or their soul is choosing to learn through hardship, what advice do you have for them, Noah? How do you go from that place of learning from hardship to learning from joy?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a simple 4 steps that you can take today, literally. So you can do a self-assessment first, which for me, if you follow that me, we be, essentially what I would do is, without any data, without any metrics, what you can do is just 0 to 10. So like 0, the lowest state, 10, you're rocking it. And essentially just write down on a piece of paper, body, number 1. So what's your physical state like? How's your sleep? How's your energy? Things around the body, 0 to 10. Then you do the same thing for your mind, your emotions, your spirit, your connection to these senses, 0 to 10. Then you move into the we, which would be relationships. So the levels of relationships. Then it would be your environment. So the environment that you live in, on a physical side of things. And then you can also add career. I think career is really important, or life mission. So that way, a lot of people struggle with that in today's world, and especially, the means, right? That's the foundation. And then what I would do is you give a number to each of these, and then you sum them together and divide them by the number that you put in there. Now, as you can see, this can be applied to anything. So whatever matters to you, this is where you have to be your own journey writer, so to speak. So if you have other things that you want to add in there, please do so. Now, what you do then, so the first step to this change is waking up. So there's going to be 4 steps I'll take you through. So based on this self-assessment, right, where you add with numbers. Now, apply this same method into each and every element, the body, mind, emotions, and beyond. And essentially, what are those things that you need to wake up from? What are those things that don't work? It's a simple question. What works? What doesn't work? So if, for example, you can't sleep, right, on a physical body, or let's say that you took a blood test and you're low on vitamin D and high on environmental toxins, it gives you a data set to start with, waking up first. Once you wake up, right, that's the first part of this journey. You then clean up. So that's the second part. And that is, how do you detox the body? How do you let go of the relationships that don't work? How do you let go of the career that don't work, right? This is when you got to let go of the old, so that way you can bring up the new. Now, I used to think that I can keep the old person and also be the new person. And guess what? NoaAon. highs and lows and good days and bad
Ooh,
days. I
yeah,
kept on
yeah, yeah.
jumping in that same freaking loop. So when I let go of the old, I open up the room and space to be able to power up, which is the third phase of this journey. And when you power up, this is when you supplement vitamin D. You bring new ideas, new relationships. You go into offense. This is the exciting part. This is when you start taking the true charge of your life. You are in the driver's seat and you now decide, how do you accelerate this? So wake up, clean up, then power up. The fourth one is resting up. And this is the process of unhooking that we were talking about. This is integration. So this is the times that you realign, reassess. This is the time that you can, block it into those daily, weekly, monthly, yearly set of time, because the time that you spend with yourself is also the time that is for you to rest. This is that time you just integrate, enjoy, embody. Because sometimes we are so obsessed by our goals that we forget to just breathe, just be as you are. And I'm sometimes, that person. I keep on moving and going and going. And sometimes it's like, hold on, like I gotta just also enjoy, all of the creativity and creation that has been, created. So wake up, clean up, power up, rest up. This is the essential tool how you can apply it into any area of your life where you can face it through questions. You're going to receive answers. And also, of course, if you ever want to reach out, just let us know. We're here to help you as much as we can. This is also part of this journey. You're going to find your own tools, right, that will work for you on any of these levels. But this was literally the way that I got out of my pain, was through this exact process. It was nothing, no significant, crazy manuals, none of that. It's just these 4 steps.
It's all in there. Wake up, through psychedelics, breath work, whatever, right? Tools will come. If we just set that intention, we want to wake up. Clean up. This is huge. And I love Noah's method. Like, I think there's, really going specific into writing down 0 to 10 and honesty. All truth, all growth starts from truth. 0 to 10, where am I? Self-reflection, self-analysis. And then, but the cleanup, I think it's huge right now. So many people are doing parasite cleanses, gut microbiome cleaning, and cleaning the trauma out of the body. And so and I know that NoaAon has on his team, like, and he's got a shop if you go, and there's a lot of products on there. I'm sure that the ones that Noah believes in from his level of consciousness. And so a lot of those products, if you want to go check it out to be able to clean up, there's liver cleanses, there's gut cleanses, there's all different types of parasite cleanses. I'm about to do one tomorrow. And then there's power up, and then Noah's going to link in at the bottom there. We'll link it on the show notes. He's going to give a gift of some power up techniques, holotropic, whatever it is there on the breath there. So if you want to check that out, feel free to do that. And then I love the last one, because that's one that I also sometimes forget, is rest up. And once again, I love the practicality of what Noah's doing, though. He's scheduling 1 day a week, regular scheduling a day a week to go out into nature, to forest bathe, to rest, to integrate, to detox from digital, and I think that's really a good way to flow, to have that regularly scheduled in. Noah, anything? I mean, I could talk to you forever, man. But anything else that is flowing through for you that you want to leave? Anything kind of that we may have not covered that you feel like it's important for the people to know?
Well, our mission is to unify the world, right? One person at a time. And I think through realizing your power today, through really facing, and shining light into those things that are hard first, so that way your life can become easy again, that's really, it starts with you. And we can talk all day long, and and a lot of times that's where I was too. Like, I would listen to so many audiobooks and so many podcasts, and I would just keep on consuming this while I was forgetting to be living this, right? So I would say is, see what happens, apply this. There's been thousands of people around the world that we've been able to touch with this simple steps that you can readjust however you like. We're not here to tell you we have the way, right? It's just merely another way to look at life to integrate life into a simple shapes and form that can work for everyone. So I really, truly, out of my bottom of my heart, I believe in you. I really know that every single person can do this when they're willing to. And it is time to shut the fuck up with that clutter of your excuses as to why not to, because there is no reason. There is no more victimhood in this new earth that we're all moving into. So I want to welcome you to this new earth, because we are all shifting there, and that's where we're heading.
Fucking ho. Oh man. So many pearls and nuggets in this episode, guys. There's so much wisdom here. So I hope you guys listen to it. We listen to it. We'll put some show notes in the bottom. Until next time, love, light, peace, and truth to all sentient beings. Peace.